You're waiting. Not consciously, but your body knows it. You check your phone one more time before bed, hoping someone noticed you're struggling. You stay in that job another year because maybe next quarter they'll see my value. You keep dating someone who treats you like an option because they'll change when they realize what they have. And deep down, you're waiting for a sign, a rescue, a moment when someone finally sees you and pulls you out of the quicksand you've been sinking in. Here's the truth that will either break you or set you free. Nobody is coming to save you. Not your parents, not your partner, not your boss, not the universe. And that's not a cruel statement. It's the most liberating truth you'll ever hear. Because the moment you stop waiting for rescue is the moment you become your own hero. Stay with me, because in 90 seconds, I'll show you the exact moment I realized I was waiting for a savior who didn't exist, and how that realization saved my life. And by the end, you'll have one question to ask yourself daily that rewires your brain from victim to architect. Let's get real for a second. We're all raised on rescue fantasies. Disney princesses waiting for princes, superheroes swooping in at the last second. Even self-help books promising 5 steps to have it all figured out. We're conditioned to believe that if we just endure long enough, someone or something will arrive to fix our lives. And that belief, it's the quiet killer of potential. I know this because I lived it for 28 years. I waited for my parents to finally understand me. I waited for a relationship to give me purpose. I waited for a job promotion to validate my worth. And every time I got close to taking real action, applying for that dream role, setting that boundary, walking away from what drained me, I'd whisper to myself, just wait a little longer. Help is coming. Then my dad got sick, suddenly. No warning. And in that hospital room, watching him fight for breath, I realized something that shattered me. He wasn't coming to save me anymore. The man who'd fixed my bike, who'd told me everything will be okay, who'd been my safety net for decades, he was human, fragile, mortal. And in that moment, the fantasy collapsed. There was no cavalry on the horizon, no magical fix, just me. And the terrifying, beautiful truth that I was the only one who could build the life I wanted. That wasn't a sad moment, it was a sacred one, because grief stripped away the illusion, and what remained was pure agency, raw, uncomfortable, but mine. Today, we're talking about 3 stages of this awakening, but stage 2, that's the dangerous one, the one where most people give up and crawl back to waiting. I'll break it down at the 6-minute mark. But first, let's talk about the lie you've been sold since childhood. Stage 1, the waiting room. This is where most people live their entire lives, not physically waiting, but emotionally. You're waiting for permission, waiting for confidence to magically appear before you start, waiting for someone to notice your quiet suffering and say, "I see you, let me help." You rationalize it as being patient or trusting the process. But patience without action is just fear in a fancy costume. Watch for these tells. You've had the same goal for 3 years, but keep preparing instead of starting. You feel resentful when others succeed because it means you could have too if you'd just taken the leap. You use words like someday and when things settle down as emotional pacifiers. I stayed in the waiting room for my writing career. For 7 years, I'd buy journals, read books about writing, follow authors on Instagram, but I never wrote the book. Why? Because writing the book meant facing the possibility of failure, and that was scarier than perpetual almost. Waiting felt safer than trying and falling short. And here's the trap. The waiting room has comfortable chairs, good lighting, people who understand your struggle. It feels like progress because you're thinking about change, but thinking isn't doing, and no amount of mental rehearsal builds the muscle of action. Which brings us to stage 2, the freefall. Stage 2 happens when life forces the truth on you. Layoff, breakup, health scare, death, betrayal. Something rips the rug out from under your waiting, and suddenly you're falling with nothing to grab. This is where most people break. They panic. They beg the universe for a sign. They text the ex at 2 a.m. They apply for 10 jobs in one night just to feel control. I hit my freefall at 29. Same week, my relationship ended, my freelance client dropped me, and my dog died. 3 pillars of my identity, partner, provider, caretaker, gone in 7 days. I spent the first 48 hours in bed bargaining with a God I wasn't sure I believed in. Just give me one sign, one clear direction. I'll do the rest. Silence. Crickets. The universe didn't care. And that silence, that was the gift. Because in that void, no distractions, no false hope, I finally heard my own voice. Not the voice that said wait for rescue, the deeper one. The one that whispered, you've survived 100% of your worst days so far. You don't need saving, you need to start. That's the pivot point. The free fall doesn't kill you, it strips you bare. And what's left isn't weakness, it's raw material, unfiltered, unmediated, yours. But here's where people get stuck, and this is the dangerous part I promised you. Stage 2 has a trapdoor. Right after the freefall, when you're raw and tender, your brain will whisper, see, you do need saving. Look how broken you are without help. And you'll almost believe it. You'll almost crawl back to waiting, just with a new flavor. I'll save myself after I read this one book. I'll start Monday. I'll wait until I feel ready. That's not healing. That's just waiting in a different chair. And I almost fell for it. After my triple loss, I signed up for a manifestation course promising to attract abundance. I spent $497 hoping a guru would hand me the map I was too scared to draw myself. The course was fine, but the real work happened when I closed my laptop, looked in the mirror, and said out loud, no one is coming, not even a guru. It's just me, and that's enough. That sentence changed everything. Not because it was magical, but because it was true. And truth, however brutal, is always more empowering than fantasy. Watch for this trapdoor in your own life. Anytime you outsource your power to a program, a person, or a promise that they will fix what you must face. Healing isn't about finding the right teacher. It's about becoming your own student. And when you walk through that trapdoor instead of falling back into it, you enter stage 3, the quiet building. This isn't dramatic, no movie montage music, no viral success story. Just you showing up when no one's watching, writing one paragraph, making one cold call, going to therapy even when you don't feel like it, setting a boundary even when your hands shake. This is where real life is built, not in the rescue, but in the daily choice to be your own anchor. I started small after my freefall. Day 1, I wrote 100 words, not for an audience, not for validation, just to prove to myself I could create something from nothing. Day 7, I applied for one job that scared me. Day 30, I said no to a request that drained me and didn't apologize for it. No one clapped, no one noticed, but something shifted inside. I stopped waiting for permission to exist fully. And that internal shift, that's where freedom lives. The quiet building has no audience. That's the point. You're not performing resilience for likes or praise. You're practicing it in the dark, knowing that one day the lights will come on and you'll realize you've built something unshakable. And here's the secret nobody tells you. The people you admire aren't waiting for rescue either. That entrepreneur you follow, she's not lucky, she's just further along in her quiet building. That artist you inspire, he's not naturally talented, he's just endured more free falls than you've seen. Everyone you look up to has stood in that void and chosen to build anyway. You're not behind, you're just in your chapter. And your chapter requires you, not a savior. Now, let's talk about what to actually do with this truth. Forget toxic positivity, forget just manifest it. Those bypass the work. Instead, ask yourself this question every morning for 30 days. If nobody is coming to save me today, what's one thing I can do to move the needle? Not change my life, not fix everything, just move the needle. 1%, one step, one boundary, one application, one honest conversation. Write the answer down, do it before noon. No fanfare, no social media post, just you and the quiet satisfaction of being your own hero for one day. I did this after my freefall. Some days the answer was send one email. Other days it was don't cancel therapy. Once it was eat a vegetable. Pathetic? Maybe, but that daily practice rewired my brain from who will save me to what can I build today. And that shift from passive to active is everything. This works because agency isn't a feeling, it's a practice. You don't feel capable and then act. You act and then you become capable. The muscle builds through use, not waiting. Remember that hospital room I mentioned at the start? The moment I realized my dad couldn't save me anymore? I didn't leave that room healed. I left it raw, shaking, terrified. But for the first time, I was honest. And honesty, however painful, is the foundation of